Hello? Yes. Hello, welcome to today's live stream. We're talking about the number one habit that changed literally everything for the best in our lives, in our business, in our relationships, in our money, in all the things. My name is Tasha. This is Brandon.
Hi, everybody.
And we're Rules of Rebellion, and we are here to help creatives, artists, coaches, business owners move out of burnout and perfectionism patterns into a place of alignment and getting their life back without ruining their business. And so if that's your jam, you are in the right place. Today, we are specifically talking about the number one habit. The number one habit. We've all heard, if you're in personal development, that you need to be paying attention to your habits. There are success habits. There are... What's happening over here?
There's so much business.
We're in Portland, so the weather's a little funny. So we thought we'd had natural light, and the light is not really light.
It's natural.
It's
just naturally fucking dark.
So we're talking about this because, for me personally, actually, we have two very different experiences with habits. I'll speak for myself, and then let Brandon speak for himself. We'll see how that goes. I have been.
Are you medicated?
No, I'm not. I didn't even have any caffeine today. This is ovulatory energy, my friends. Okay, so. And this is also me not holding myself back anymore, which is a new phase that we're in. So welcome to the show. I have been in personal development, studying personal development for almost 25 years. Always looking for ways to get better, to be better, to improve myself, to be the best version of myself. And frankly, I got tired of trying to make myself better because what the fuck is wrong with me?
It was tiring.
It was very tiring. And for not just for me, for everybody around me.
It was an exhaustive process.
And one of the things that I heard over and over and over again, it's 11:11, is that habits are really, really important. Success habits, health habits, mindset habits, all of these things are really important for you to be successful, for you to achieve your goals, for you to be the best version of you. And it's just fucking exhausting trying to chase these things for as long as I did without having all the information.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I wish I had known 20 years ago is something we're going to be talking about with you today. Because if we had both known, this was the source of so many things that we were struggling with. And it was the root cause of so many bad habits. We would have made changes just forever ago. We would have been able to at least know what was happening as opposed to blaming ourselves. And this is what it is for me. I blamed myself so much for not doing it the right way, for not pushing harder, for not making it work, for not being consistent, for not following through, for not sticking with the habits, for not creating the habits, all the things. And it made me sick. Ultimately made me really sick. What do you
I am laughing about there's just so much work and energy that you put into ripping yourself to pieces.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that we're just constantly convinced that we're not enough. We're constantly convinced that the way that we're doing it is not right. We're constantly convinced that there's a better way to do it out there. There are more effective ways for sure. There are more ineffective ways to do things for sure. But the amount of information that we get just daily about if you spend just a little more time to just change yourself a little bit, if you spend just a little bit more time today to work on yourself just a little bit more, and the narrative is always, always more. And it is always exhausting as fuck, and I'm so tired of more. I'm so tired of more. It's so fucking...
More being the answer to everything?
It isn't. Yeah. It never is. I've never, ever thought of any problem where the solution was more.
Well, there are some places where more is the solution. More compassion, more love.
Or less hate and less intrusivity and less fucking just do less and leave everybody alone. That is my goddamn...
Missy, what book are you talking about? Because I feel like there's so many books I hate now that I used to recommend to people. And also, let us know in the comments if this is your experience as well with habits. What was your experience with habits? Did you get taught habits? Like, did your parents teach you those things? Did your teachers or coaches teach you any specific lessons about how habits work or how you're supposed to manufacture success in your life or perform and how to be at your best performance?
I just realized in real time that I
love these.
I learned about habits not in these are the habits you need to have a successful life. I just learned these are really bad habits. Don't do them. And then I feel like as a person being guided through the world, that the expectation was that I would intuit, if these are bad, then I know what the good ones are.
Mm-hmm.
And
because if you don't do the bad ones, then
right, then by default, if you're not doing something bad, then you're doing something good.
Right.
And well, that's bullshit. And it also isn't fucking helpful because one of the things that Tasha and I had a hard time with in the beginning of our relationship was
I'm excited to see which one you're going to pull out right now.
We're talking about habits.
Uh-huh.
It was Tasha's incessant need to fix all of the damage that she felt she had. And because of the fact that my relationship...
Like as a person?
Yeah, through habits. Through like constant personal development, through constantly buying books and courses and finding new people to listen to and doing all of the things that you used to do.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting thing. I mean, it's interesting now. It wasn't interesting then. It was excruciating for the both of us then, but it's an interesting thing looking at how hard you worked to identify what the right habits were and how hard I worked to not think about habits at all because the only habits that I was told about were the bad ones. Mm-hmm. And so why the fuck would I want to interact with habits if the only thing that they're going to bring me is shame and guilt and a lecture and
all
like
based on fear and avoidance.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I didn't spend any fucking time thinking about habits. I
feel like that tracks.
I just did my life and stuff happened later.
Uh-huh.
And in juxtaposition to that, you spent all of your time analyzing your life, trying to solve problems. Mm-hmm. I mean, in addition to solving everybody else's problems.
Well,
but
I wasn't analyzing as much as I was self-deprecating and then thrusting myself into action just out of impulsive need to fix the thing. Yes. I need to be fixed. Clearly I'm broken because I feel all these things. Clearly I'm broken because I have to do more for people to want to spend time with me. I have to prove that I am somebody worth having around by making sure that everybody around me is comfortable, everybody around me is feeling seen. One of my covert superpowers has always been to make people feel really good about themselves by just not allowing myself to be part of the conversation. And I can see that in my dating history very clearly, that a lot of the reasons that I was in these little relationships with people is because I did a really good job of making them feel really good about themselves. Not because it was me, but because I just was perpetually filling their need, their void that I also had. I just had a different coping mechanism. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that today. But in terms of habits, so when you are operating like I was for so long in this perpetual race to fix myself, to improve, because if you're subscribing to the entire industry of self-improvement, it is inherent that you believe that there's something that is worth improving, that there's something wrong with you. And this is, people give me shit about this, but this semantics piece is really fucking important. There is a difference between improving your skills, improving your reaction to things, improving your ability and capability and capacity, and improving you as a person, as a human being. You inherently are an incredible, perfect, beautiful, lovely, brilliant, magnificent, magnetic person. The only reason you think you have things to improve is because of the habits that you developed out of survival from a childhood that did not allow you to be your full self. So your only thing you're improving is your own ability to express yourself, not your actual essence of who you are. And then when you weren't a cheerleader, they left you. Oh my God, I did it also. Same, Missy. Same. Oh, did they leave me? Yeah. What were you going to say about what I was just saying?
I was going to say so I just wrote an email that you guys are going to all get tomorrow. And I realized as a business owner, what I should have said is, a while ago, I wrote an email that was scheduled to go out tomorrow. That's not how this shit works. We have real life, and so I wrote it just about 20 minutes ago. But it's about habits, and one of the things that I am now aware of for myself is my habits became the center of my life, and I built my life around it. And
your bad habits?
Yeah, just the habits that I had, none of them were positive. And so, yes. So the neutral habits that I had that drove me to self-destruction, yes, they were the thing that I built my life around. Mm-hmm. Rather than, and the reason why I'm thinking about this is what you were just saying about the self-improvement part. Yeah. Habits have been taught to us as this thing that defines who we are as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
You either have good habits, therefore you're a good person, or you have bad habits and something went terribly wrong and you're irresponsible, or maybe you just didn't have the chances and the options that other people did and therefore you have all these habits. Whatever it is, the story that someone tells you about yourself and your habits, we've been conditioned to believe that the habits are the center and we build our life around that. And one of the things, the problematic part of that thought process is when your habits are rooted in a trauma response to keep you safe, and you build your life around maladaptive coping mechanisms based on trauma, then your entire life is feeding a cycle of self-destruction, essentially. For me, anyway, it definitely was. And what I needed to learn was my habits were, the intention of them is to support my life and myself, not for my life and myself to support my habits, which is where I was for the first 30 some odd years of my life, was just how do I continually support this habit, because at one time it made everything better.
Well, and it was also, like you say in the email that you were getting, it defined you. It
Right.
defined, that's who you were, that's who your persona was,
well,
that's how you had developed your personality.
And that's what we're taught. Like,
Yeah.
you are the things you do, and therefore you never get to change the things you do because that's who you are. And so you create this enormous story based on this one moment in time of your life where you needed to find a thing to help you get through some of the worst shit you've ever been through.
Yes.
For me.
Yes. We're going to come back to this topic though later this week on a live, because this requires so much more conversation.
Oh, for sure.
And there is so much to unpack in that conversation. I want to make sure that we give it the full attention that it needs to.
We're going to be talking about this for 4 or 5 hours on Friday. Live.
Come join
no breaks.
us. But what we're talking about today, if you're just joining us, the organized artists, are we ever not talking about coping habits?
Yes.
So yes, Missy, yes. So today's topic specifically is about the number one habit that changed everything for us. When we're looking at how you move through the day, science research shows that 90-95% of your day is based on habitual thoughts or habitual actions, which means even though we have this very complicated relationship with habits, we're already doing things in a habitual way without realizing it or without giving it the full attention, because you just wouldn't be able to do anything if you were just constantly thinking about all the things that you're thinking about and doing that are repeated patterns. The reality is that you already have so many habits that were not intentional. These are just like, I brush my teeth. It's neutral. It's going to provide me with healthier teeth in 20 years theoretically, but there's not a good or bad about that. There are things that are happening in your day-to-day life that started as habits that are not the things that you're choosing to do consciously, but they're things that your nervous system is choosing to do. And this is affecting everything. So when we interact with each other, so a week ago, we were having a conversation and I was not receptive to what Brandon was saying because I was anxious and I was distracted and I had not done the things I usually need to do before we can have an important conversation.
I don't even know what the hell you're talking about right now.
That's how often it happens.
Stop it.
And this is the reality of it. The reality is that when I show up to a relationship without having been aware of how I want to show up to that conversation, this is true for Brandon and I in our relationship. It's true certainly for when I show up to the relationship that I have with my kids, Brandon, LJ and Ainsley, and where I am showing up in my energy, in my mood, what my intention is. Everything I've done before that moment has impacted how I'm going to show up in that conversation. So Brandon gave us the example yesterday of the night before that, where he made one new choice and it rippled into several other choices that were so beneficial and so aligned with where he wanted to be. And it gave him so much more energy the next day than the day before, even getting the same amount of sleep, right? So he chose to not follow an old rule and do something new, even though it wasn't what he was supposed to do. And because he had that one thought that wasn't habitual, he was able to produce a different result than he had before. We are not often able to have that conscious decision with every habit we make every single day. But when we are focusing on the places in our life where we do want to have an improved experience, have just a more fulfilling experience, more intentional, you can start making those changes. You can't make those changes if you don't recognize where your choices are actually coming from. So if I'm coming to the conversation with Brandon and he's having a normal conversation about what's happening next or what our plans are or asking me about my day, and I am irritable and agitated and I'm being annoyed that he's asking me questions, or I'm being avoidant or deflecting and all of these things, that is not allowing us to have a connected moment, which is what we both crave and desire in our relationship. Our goals for our relationship is to remain connected, and anytime there's a disconnect, to connect as soon as possible. That happens in our relationship just like it does with everybody else. Every once in a while, there's going to be moments of disconnect because somebody is not feeling happy, joy, peace all the time. Same thing with my kids. If I'm frustrated because I'm doing something on the fucking computer that it's not working the way I want it to, and then one of the kids walks up and says, hey, can I do this thing, or I need to do this, or can I go this place? And I am responding and reacting to my frustration in the moment, but they're seeing my frustration at them for that question. That is showing up in a way in a relationship that is not creating trust and building a connection. And this happens everywhere. This happens in business. If you get a message in your DMs asking about one of your offers or one of the pieces of content you created, and the way that the person asks the question triggers something inside you because that's how somebody else asked it, or because you assume that that meant a different story about what is happening. So they say, that post that you said was interesting, or that post that you wrote is interesting. And you thought, well, my parents used to say that was interesting when they were making fun of me, or when they were mocking that, that I actually thought I knew what I was talking about. And so you read into that when they were really actually just saying, that's really fucking interesting. Like, it's a new idea. It's a new concept. My point for saying all of this is that when we are not operating from a place of calm and regulation, our nervous system, and being aware of what it is, we are often habitually responding to the people in our lives in a way that does not allow us to have what we say we want. And it is really hard to see why things keep happening in a way that we don't want them to keep happening. And we can't figure out why it keeps happening because I keep trying to do the thing that everybody tells me to do. I keep trying to use the words and say the things. And the reality is at the root of all of that is not a conscious choice, because your conscious choice is not allowed to be there because your nervous system is dysregulated. Did you want to add anything before I keep going on my lecture?
Yeah, I think we should talk really quickly
Yes,
about the
thank you.
nervous system and regulation and what those things mean, and recognizing that when we come to a conversation, when we come to an experience where we are mentally or emotionally somewhere else, and then we are confronted with a new idea, having to make a choice where we weren't expecting to, having a conversation that we weren't prepared for, having an emotional experience that was a surprise because we're doing something else, we're in another place, or we feel a certain way, it triggers us into believing we're not safe, because we already felt a little unsafe to begin with because of the fact that we weren't present. Being present is a huge part of allowing your nervous system the opportunity to see that there is safety. When we are navigating our life with habits out of autopilot, we don't actually give ourselves permission to be present. So when we were in the very beginning of our relationship and Tasha was incessantly looking for new ways to improve herself.
And everybody else.
There was a massive amount of nervous system dysregulation there, because of the fact that she was constantly on a journey, on a quest, on an expedition to find more information. And this was a never-ending search, which meant there was never a pause. There was never an opportunity to be present and sit and say, okay, these are the things that have occurred. What do I know? What can I do next? There was never a moment to be able to allow the nervous system to calm down. When I was an alcoholic for 18 years, I went on autopilot for 18 years, and like I was talking about earlier, built an entire life around being an alcoholic. So all of my choices were on autopilot, and all of my choices continually perpetuated a system of being dysregulated. So when met with anything new, there was a level of fear and anxiety and a desire to run back to the place that felt safe, which was the place that was making us dysregulated in the first place. So when Tasha was confronted with someone necessarily not agreeing with the way in which she would go about doing things, it would dysregulate her. She'd get really anxious, and then she would run back to the coping mechanism, the habit of, I've got to find more information, I've got to prove myself right, I've got to prove somebody else right, I've got to prove that this is possible to fix. Same thing with me with alcohol. Anytime I was confronted with any kind of stress, I would get super dysregulated. My nervous system would kick into high gear and say, you're in danger, you're in danger, you're in danger. And so I would immediately start figuring out, when's the first time I can have a drink? Is there an opportunity for me to go have a cigarette? Is there medication that I can take? Is there crap food I can pour into my body? All of these coping mechanisms that we built our lives around, they're rooted in dysregulation and fear. And so when you are constantly resupplying those old habits with dysregulation and fear, it just ratchets it up more and more and more. And it's not until you're able to become present to identify, oh, there's fear and there's dysregulation happening, that can you make a choice to be able to do something new.
Mm-hmm. And we don't realize that these things are happening, and they're happening literally all around you every single day with everyone in your life. We're not unique beings, Brandon and I, in this sense. And so the benefit of understanding that every habit that you want to exercise more, you want to drink more water, you want to go to bed earlier. How many of you are the bedtime revenge procrastinators in here? We have a lot of that in our community because that is a result of having habits out of survival mode during the day. If you want to be having more time for play and creativity. Like I'm working on actually giving myself the opportunity to write stories for a book that I want to write. Brandon's working on several art projects. We weren't doing that off and on over the last couple of years because the habit of that felt unsafe with all the other beliefs and dysregulation we had happening in our bodies. But because we dialed down to what is the one habit that would help all of this feel different, is nervous system regulation. When we realize that that is the thing, if you can get yourself to a place of calm, you can actually make decisions from a place of alignment, not just for right now, not just to make it feel better in this moment, but to also have access to the part of your brain that allows you to think long term. What do I want to do right now I'm going to be proud of myself in a week, then I'm going to be proud of myself in a year, that I'm going to be happy that I did later on, because it's beneficial not to just me feeling soothed right now, not just me having this moment of like not feeling so icky or uncomfortable or anxious, but also it's going to help me feel more aligned and more authentic because it's aligned with where I want to go. And this is a huge missing piece from the conversation about habits, and I'm fucking over it. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Yes, read that probably twice or if not 3 times, Missy, and there's nothing about this in there or any of the other habit books that are out there right now.
So here's something that I think is really important to take note of. If we do not become present with what habits we currently have, then we're not going to be able to be aware of the fact that we are dysregulated in the first place. Being able to be present, being able to identify, I have these habits, they do these things for me, and being able to ask yourself, do I need those things to be done, is a really important part. Once you're able to do that, you are able to then identify your anxiety at all. I went through 30 some odd years of living an entire life as possibly one of the most anxious people I've ever known, and I had no idea I had anxiety at all.
When did you learn that? When I was sick? Was it after?
It was definitely therapy.
Yeah, so
it was definitely therapy. But so here's the thing. I wasn't aware of the fact that I was anxious. So I kept making the same fucking decisions. I remember the day, I remember the moment, I remember everything when I, for the very first time, felt anxiety, and it was after I had stopped drinking, and I acknowledged this is how I used to feel right before I would start drinking violently. And I got emotional about it because I was able to say, I understand this is anxiety, and now I'm going to go do something else. And for 18 years, the only thing I did when I felt that way was dump gallons of alcohol down my throat, destroy my body and my life. And it was an enormously important and emotional moment for me, because in that moment, I realized that I have 100% control over what happens next, because I'm identifying there's a feeling I have, and I have the power within myself to choose to be able to go make a different choice than I used to, and that's going to allow me to do every single thing that I want to do. And so this part of a habit that's so important is identifying that it exists And we can't do that unless we're identifying that our nervous system is dysregulated. And once we identify that our nervous system is dysregulated, taking steps slowly, gently, to regulate your nervous system so that you can start to identify, these are the things that I'm feeling, and now I'm going to take aligned action to soothe myself in a way that moves me from a place of panic and survival to a place of calm and confident choices and options. And that is the magic of fucking nervous system regulation. And that's one of the reasons why it is literally the most important habit that you can possibly have. Because it allows you to see all of your other fucking habits. Like, even now, after releasing a 18-year alcohol addiction and releasing a 17-year cigarette addiction and addiction to over-the-counter meds and food and all of these things, even after having done all of that work and being confident that I'm not going to go back to doing any of those things, I still get dysregulated. But I also still have the opportunity now to go, okay, well, I'm just going to choose to do things that soothe my person in alignment with where I want to be after I am dysregulated. Not, how can I immediately make myself feel better in this moment with no consideration of the future or what consequences those choices have. That's what I was going to have to say.
Congratulations, Missy. That's awesome. There is...
Hey, congratulations! That's wonderful.
So much that is wrapped up in this. And like you said, Missy, that book doesn't have anything about it in here. And you mentioned that book is not designed to help people who are recovering from abuse. Yes. What I will say about that is that those books are designed and written for the able-bodied, cis-hetero, Christian, wealthy, white male who does not have the lived experience of so many people who are reading and listening to those books to be able to help themselves. And so there's nothing wrong with those books in terms of the information that's in there, except that they're not written for us. They're not written for those of us who have multiple unique life circumstances. And we're going to be digging more into this next week about unique life circumstances and how many you actually don't.
Sorry, I was trying to do the thing. You're not the only one who knows how to touch the phone.
It seems like it might be.
Stop.
This is a really crucial missing piece of the conversation when it comes to habits. It's not just motivation. It's not just do the thing because you said you were going to do it and push through and have the willpower and be motivated. There are so many more layers to this because humans are complicated beings. We're messy. And there is not a day that is exactly the same as the day before. And so you can't expect to do the same thing every day. The thing you can do is actually have control over your own awareness and decide that I am no longer going to allow my survival mechanisms to run my life, because those habits are not making me feel fulfilled. They're not allowing me to rest. They're not allowing me to enjoy my relationships. There's a post that I'm going to be posting in just a couple hours talking about the lies that I told myself for so long that I felt so much embarrassment and guilt about, because I kept saying, I'm going to write a book, and I love my family, I love being present with my family, I love doing the things, and I have a business that allows me to do those things. And all of those things were true, that's what I wanted, but my actions did not line up with what I was saying I wanted and what I was actually telling the people that I care about. And this is where we have so much shame built into habits and changing them, what we shouldn't be doing. I shouldn't be doing this. We have this constant ticker in our mind of all the things we should have done already, the things we should be doing instead of what we're doing now. And all of that you can zoom out of that when you have nervous system regulation as a habitual practice. It is not hard. It is challenging to know when to do it at first. But when you start putting this as just a thing you do, like you wake up in the morning, like you drink something, like you brush your teeth, like you go to work, like you check your phone, if you just make this a thing that you're doing each day, no matter where it is in your day, you're going to automatically have better results, long-term and short-term, than you would if you didn't. You don't have to be a nerd like me to have and study the neuroscience of all of these pieces and all the different ways and how and when. Literally just doing it once a day, no matter when it is in the day, is going to make you more capable of having and experiencing peace and joy in a way that you haven't before. It's going to make you be able to be in a relationship that actually feels connected and being present and being able to actually have an exchange with someone that you care about. You're going to be able to be present rather than being terrified that you're missing time. Time's running out, time's running out, time's running out. And realize, yes, but by thinking about time running out, I'm missing the moment I'm in now, and that's what I'm going to actually regret, because I'm already regretting the times that I've missed. This is the shift that you can have when nervous system regulation is the thing that you prioritize.
This is also, so yesterday we were talking about excuse me, yesterday we were talking about new choices, new decisions. You can't make new decisions if your nervous system is dysregulated, you're unaware of it, and you aren't doing things for your nervous system to regulate it. Making new decisions when you're dysregulated is scary. That's the reason why so many of us are so trapped in the cycles that we're in for so long, is because we started building these habits from need. Because most of us, like Tasha said when we started talking, most of us were not taught how to create habits. And so the majority of the habits that we have, all of us, are left over, unfortunately, from when we were shitty, angsty teenagers just trying to survive. I would challenge any of you to go ask a teenager to manage your life for a day. That's what it looks like. Like, think of a teenager. For all of us who are fucking old and used to use telephones, think about asking a teenager to, like, go to the grocery store or make calls to fucking pay bills or do any of the shit that we have to do on a regular basis and watch them melt. And that's what your life looks like from the outside if you're still using habits that were built based on trauma from when you were 16 and 17 years old and nobody gave a shit about what you needed to be able to survive. That's where your habits are coming from your crappy experience in high school. And so being able to regulate your nervous system gives you the opportunity to say, I know I've been doing this shit for 35 fucking years, but maybe now that I'm a little more relaxed and a little more calm and I don't feel like my life is about to crumble because I just took a walk around the block, is there some other shit that I could maybe choose to do right now that isn't going back to the same old thing? But you can't make those new choices to build new habits without regulating your nervous system first, because at any point in time when you are dysregulated and someone comes up to you and says, hey, you want to go do something brand new that you've never done before with results that are not guaranteed, you're never going to fucking say yes to that. Never, ever, ever are you going to go, let me disrupt my very predictable life, albeit challenging, albeit exhausting. I know what's going to happen at the end of the day.
So some of us do say yes to that. And then what happens is we are constantly saying yes to every time someone gives us a new opportunity.
And that's not okay.
And it just is more dysregulating because you don't have the capacity. I didn't have the capacity to continue to follow through with the new thing because the new thing was so scary. And so it creates this, your nervous system has to face a new challenge, but then in the new challenge, you're also facing multiple new experiences, new ideas, new interactions with other people. We see this with our business coaching clients all the time. If you're in business, my friends, nervous system dysregulation is jacking up your success. And I'm saying this from deeply rooted in still on this journey of healing these layers, because there's so much about being in business that requires your nervous system to be calm that most of us did not ever learn about. You're trying to put an offer together or a product together or a piece of artwork together and you want to sell it. There are so many layers of potential trauma in your past that are going to challenge your nervous system to do the thing, to take the risk, to say it boldly, to be confident and own your power, to own your unique perspective. And we keep telling ourselves we just should do it. We just need to do it scared because that's what everybody keeps telling us to do. It's different. There's a difference between having some fear, having some nervousness, having some hesitation because you don't know what's going to happen, and being frozen because your whole nervous system is screaming, you are about to die. And that is what the difference between just having fear and being a perfectionist is. Perfectionism is not doing everything perfectly. Perfectionism is the dungeon of anxiety that we feel because we can't do things in a way that are going to make us feel safe because the people around us, somewhere in our lifetime, usually in childhood, taught us that unless you're perfect, you don't get to feel and have the love and affection and the attachment and the attunement. And so it's wired into your nervous system. You didn't do anything wrong. This isn't your fault. This is the bottom line we want to make sure you hear. It's not your fault that this is the way things are. But now that you've had this conversation with us, you get to make a different decision. You get to decide, I'm not going to prioritize these 85 other habits that I should be doing from all the fucking books that I've been reading and all the people that have been telling me from stages who have an entire staff to take care of this stuff. And I'm not going to focus my energy on that because that will come naturally when I deal with this one issue. If you can get your nervous system regulation practices into your day-to-day life and start becoming aware of when your body is screaming danger and what thoughts are coming from that body activation and also what thoughts are activating your nervous system, because it is a loop, when you can become aware of that, you take control back. Not of the world, which is what we were all trying to do beforehand. You take control back over how you function and how you act in each day, how you show up into relationships. You end up regretting less. You end up having less shame, less humiliation, less embarrassment, less guilt. You have more peace. You actually feel proud of yourself because you have allowed yourself to be in the moment with what's really happening and allow yourself to be fully human in the process. It is unbelievably fulfilling and relieving to have nervous system regulation be as a habitual process and practice in all of our relationships in our family. And in complete transparency, I'm currently spending 2+ hours in the morning on nervous system regulation because I am facing another goal and we are expanding. And so every time you expand into a new experience that you've never had before, your nervous system is going to show up and say, hey, bitch, we have not done this. You are not ready for this. You cannot handle this. You do not have what you need. You need to do better, get better, be and feel better. And so I have chosen to move away from this attack approach that I've had for years and moved into the surrender of what do I need first before I start dealing with any problems. Life-changing, game changer. The 2 hours I spent every morning over the last couple of weeks regulating my nervous system have made the other 22 hours of the day so much more functional, so much more connecting, so much more available to the creativity and the inspiration that I'm feeling. And this is why I'm able to have so much energy about this conversation today, because I've literally never experienced anything in my life that is as life-changing as nervous system regulation has been for myself and our entire family, our relationship, my art, everything.
It comes back to what I was saying at the beginning is it's not about more. It's not about more habits. It's not about more productivity. Yes. It's not about more life hacks. It's not about more shortcuts. It's not about more fucking anything. Stop collecting things and stop touching stuff. Just leave it the fuck alone and it's going to be better. Nervous system regulation is about coming back to you, and the only thing that you have to get yourself through this entire life of yours is you. And so that's where it all centers from, and that's where it should all be focused. All of your attention is about allowing yourself the permission to do less work to feel more safe in your body. The more output we do does not equal more safety. It equals more work.
Where were you 20 years ago?
Desperately
drinking at a bar somewhere,
trying to get myself through it. And so nervous system regulation is the permission slip to do less. Tasha's doing 2 hours of nervous system regulation. I'm going to tell you, instead of doing 2 hours of erratic, messy action for work that just made her tired. Like, that's all that was doing. When you're keeping yourself busy because your anxiety is going, oh, fuck, we've got bills at the end of the month, or the kids need shit, or I really want to go to those parties with my friends, or I've got to whatever. When you keep doing more and more and more and more and more to try to make things happen or try to force things to happen, you're just dysregulating the ever-loving fuck out of your nervous system. So true. If you give yourself permission to come back to yourself and regulate your nervous system, to then ask yourself these two very simple but very involved questions, what do I want and what do I need? Then you're going to not, out of habit, go do the same shit you've been doing since you were 16 years old and pissed off at the world. You're going to give yourself permission to say, you know what I don't need to do today? I don't need to helicopter my kid. You know what I don't need to do today? I don't need to crawl up my partner's ass because yet again they didn't fucking fold the laundry. I'm just going to realize that maybe this is a conversation we have later. You know what I'm not going to do today? Try to put 16 more hours into this program or into this artwork or into this sale because it's not doing me any good and I'm not having any joy and it's not effective. That's the result of nervous system regulation. And when you get to make those decisions, you get to make aligned decisions that actually bring all of those things that you were going to just like keep yourself busy doing. It allows them space to be what they are and for them to actually thrive and succeed because you're not meddling. You're not fucking with shit every 20 seconds because you're uncomfortable or you're nervous. How many of you, when you get anxious, when there's tension in a relationship, run up to people all the time to check in to make sure you're okay?
You okay? Do you need anything?
You okay? Are we okay?
Are we okay?
Is everything okay? Do we need to talk? No, motherfucker, you don't. You need to regulate your nervous system and walk away so that things can breathe and you can actually come to the conversation or come to the relationship from a place of safety and collaboration rather than fear and scarcity in the hopes that you're not in trouble. And that's why nervous system regulation is so important.
Make sure you keep an eye on our content over the next couple of days on Instagram and Facebook, because we're going to be talking more specifically about some of the aspects of the dysregulation that you're experiencing, some of the specific thoughts that you're having, some of the specific actions that you're taking that are a clue that your dysregulation, your nervous system dysregulation, is actually what's running the show. And your stories about yourself have been built on that. You have a long story now, decades long story of, I don't follow through with things. I can't finish things. I don't finish things that I start. I can't stick to a habit. I can't be healthy. I can't write a book. I can't create art. I can't, and then you fill in the blank with all of these things you can't do because you have been told that if you don't do them, then you're failing. You have to improve yourself. There's something missing from you. And it genuinely is just rooted in your inability to understand, your lack of awareness that your nervous system was running the show. You are not making those choices actively. It would be like telling someone who is drunk that they are to make those decisions. It's genuinely a very similar experience for your nervous system. You don't have the ability, when your nervous system is dysregulated, to make decisions as a healthy, calm, sober person. And so rewriting your story about what has happened in the past is a huge part of being able to move forward and writing a different future for yourself. And it's all rooted in habitualizing nervous system regulation for your specific nervous system, because we all operate differently. Your nervous system triggers and needs are different than mine, that are different than Brandon's. And so understanding that there are hundreds of ways to help support your nervous system in very small, simple ways to get started that will have monumental changes over time in every aspect of your life, that you crave change, that you crave peace, that you crave something to be better, to feel better, to not feel so hard. It is a game changer, and you deserve to have the life that you want. You deserve to have love and peace and connection and inspiration and be excited about things that you're doing. And what I will tell you, years into this journey, excitement and anxiety are just two sides of the same coin. And when you have regulation practices on your side, you can quickly turn anxiety into excitement, anticipation, and enthusiasm, and then keep maintaining that for longer, because you know that your thoughts are from an old version of yourself that was dysregulated, and you have new thoughts that you can put in place to be able to move forward towards what you want to have. You look like you had something you want to say.
No, nothing that's going to benefit the conversation at 43 minutes later. I do want to say, though, Tasha and I put a lot of work into something that we're really proud of, and there's a nervous system regulation mini course that we have. If you don't know what nervous system regulation is, or you know what it is now because we've talked to you about it for the last 50 minutes, but you don't know what to do, then we have something that will help, but I'm also going to tell you to wait to make the decision to check it out until tomorrow. Because tomorrow's Wednesday, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're going to be talking more about it tomorrow. We're going to be talking more about nervous system regulation every single day. This is something that we want you to be able to understand in a way that feels safe. And so this morning, Tasha did 2 hours of nervous system regulation. It was because certain things came up in her anxiety story that she needed to regulate towards. And I do that every single night. Every single night I have nervous system regulation practices that literally take over the course of the evening about 4 hours. It's what I dedicate my night to, is regulating my nervous system. It doesn't all look like sitting and meditating. It doesn't all look like being in a dark room calm. A lot of it is I literally walk about 10 miles every single night. And while I do it, I vent to myself. And I do all of these things that allow me to move through the anxiety that's in my body. That's just natural. Look, if you have anxiety at the end of every day or the beginning of every day, you're not broken. You're a human being that's experiencing the world. You're not supposed to live through life without anxiety. You are not, however, required to suffer through life with anxiety. We just need to learn how to transmute that energy into something that we can do something with. We can't do anything with energy. It's like asking a fucking toddler to literally accomplish any task. It's never going to happen. And so being able to do these things for ourselves is something that we have learned how to do to give us more permission to be able to take more control over our life. So we're going to be sharing those things with you through stories. So make sure you're checking our stories every day, because Tasha's going to talk to you about her nervous system regulation practices every day. Every evening I'm going to be talking to you about mine, and probably sharing some weird ass pictures I take of Portland at midnight. But nervous system regulation, if you are on a journey to change your life, if you're on a journey to grow your business, if you're on a journey as a coach, a creative, a business person, or an artist to get your message into the world, your message needs to be coming from a place of calm regulation. And we need to build habits that support calm regulation so that your habits can support your dreams, which is getting your message, your goals out into the world. And that can't happen if we're dysregulated. That can't happen if we're working from a place of, for my entire life, I've been terrified, and that has been the way in which I filter everything. And so nervous system regulation is the first step to being able to bring the life you want to a reality.
And it's so possible. I know you're hearing us talking about 2 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the night. That is not where you start.
But it's also fun for us now.
Yeah.
Like, I love taking my evenings to do that for myself, because it feels like the most, I don't know, kind thing I can do for myself all day long. Like, I look forward to it in a real way.
This is us 3-4 years
Yes.
into it. And I want to reiterate that when you first start something like this, that sounds impossible.
Because I hated the fuck out of it.
It sounded impossible when we first started doing anything like that. We have a friend who has been doing this longer than we have, and when she said she had a 3-hour morning routine, we were like, that's cute for you. And now both of us are like, how can we do even more, because it's so fulfilling, and it allows us to have more, honestly, productivity, because productivity is not a bad word. It's just making sure that you're actually productive rather than busy, being more productive with the things that we actually want to do, as opposed to keeping ourselves busy, like Brandon was saying. So it's crucial that you understand that this starts in small steps, and that's what the Regulated AF 10-Day Anti-Challenge that Brandon was talking about is about. But we're going to talk more about that tomorrow, and a fun way that you can get it for free tomorrow. So make sure you show up to our account in our stories. And are we doing a live tomorrow?
Feels like it.
Seems like we are. So we'll do a live tomorrow as well. And if you have questions about them, or if you have questions about any of the things we've talked about, any of the books that you have, any of the personal development habits that you've tried to create, feel free to message us and let us know what those are. Please also share this with anybody you think would be valuable, or to your stories, because one of our missions is to make sure that people stop believing this bullshit that is out there about how people can be good people and be successful, and actually give you real information that's practical for your life if you're not an able-bodied, cis, hetero, Christian, wealthy white man. And that's a lot of us. So we want to make sure that this message gets spread, and we can help people get their life back and still maintain their business success, or build the business success that they want. That's it.
For me, that's good. Do you have anything else you want to say about nervous system regulation?
I think we need to be done. We love you. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for sharing your stories with us and letting us know what resonates with you. Make sure you check out the podcast. If you want to re-listen to this, it'll be up by this afternoon on Boldly Becoming You, the podcast. And if you have any requests or questions that you want us to answer in the next couple of weeks, let us know about that too. We're going to be talking about habits for the next 3 weeks, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, and in 3 weeks we're going to dedicate a live to just doing questions that you guys have about habits, nervous system regulation, anything we've been talking about. So send them over, because we're collecting them, because we want to dedicate a live to just answering your questions, because for us that's really fucking fun.
All right, friends, we talk to you soon. Bye.
Have a great day, everybody.